What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Michael Bisping makes his pick for McGregor versus Chandler. With the premiere of The Ultimate Fighter rapidly approaching in May, the fight community has been anxiously discussing the seemingly inevitable return of Conor McGregor. Although there has been no official word yet on when the Irish superstar will be eligible to return to the octagon, theories and predictions about how things could play out have continued to arise. This week, Hall of Famer Michael Bisping weighed in with his prediction for the fight, saying that he believes Chandler will manage to get the job done when he faces the former two-division champion.
Chandler, just simply inactivity from Conor.
Yeah.
The performances haven't been what they used to be. Mm-hmm. He broke his leg last time out. You know, he's enjoying the fruits of his labour, and rightly so. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, he's achieved wild success, so why shouldn't he enjoy that? Mm-hmm. But that isn't always conducive to a great fighting career. Mm-hmm. You know, Michael Chandler is an athlete first. I mean, he is training every single bloody day, you know? So yeah, I mean, I give him the edge, but you can never discount Conor, you know, and the man can crack, and Chandler does get hit.
Although Chandler has stated that he hopes the fight will take place sometime in September or October, there's been ongoing confusion surrounding whether or not McGregor will actually even be eligible to compete in time. While the Irishman maintains that he simply needs to provide 2 samples that are clean prior to returning to active competition, USADA has made it clear that they want McGregor to go through a full 6 months of testing before returning. UFC President Dana White has also made it very clear that he has no plans to get involved in things. However, given that White admitted McGregor received special treatment while coaching The Ultimate Fighter, many aren't buying that the UFC president will just simply stay out of McGregor's latest feud with USADA. When he does return to the octagon, how do you see things playing out? Will he be able to pick up a big win over Michael Chandler, or will the former Bellator champion secure the biggest victory of his career? Drop your predictions in the comments section down below. Cory Sandhagen eyeing #1 contender fight after win over Chito Vera. Throughout the course of the UFC Fight Night San Antonio main event, Cory Sandhagen looked to be on another level compared to Chito Vera. Thanks to some elite-level lateral movement, Sandhagen was able to keep Vera guessing thanks to his grappling and a high volume of strikes throughout the entirety of the fight. With a big win over streaking Chito Vera, Sandhagen now finds himself right back in title contention. After the bout, during his post-fight Octagon interview, the Sandman made his case for a #1 contender fight with Merab Dvalishvili, who recently found himself as the bantamweight #1 contender in the rankings after beating Peter Yan. Dvalishvili, who was in attendance at the event, looked to be fired up over the possible title eliminator bout. Given that Cory Sandhagen entered the fight as the #5 ranked bantamweight, the win over #3 ranked Chito Vera is sure to improve his positioning in the official rankings. How do you see a potential Sandhagen versus Dvalishvili fight playing out? Sound off below. Paulo Costa's manager makes wild claim regarding new UFC contract. Recently, popular middleweight Paulo Costa re-signed with the UFC, bringing an end to the former title challenger's lengthy dispute with the promotion. After his UFC 284 showdown with Robert Whittaker fell through, Costa made it clear that although he knew he had to fight out his contract, he wanted to be a free agent. At the time, he revealed that the UFC offered him a multi-fight deal that he had no interest in. Now, however, cooler heads have seemingly prevailed as Costa's new contract reportedly sees him earning more than $1 million per fight. Tamara Alves spoke with AG Fight about the new contract, saying that the UFC knows Costa is a draw, as evidenced by the pay-per-view sales when he fought Israel Adesanya for the middleweight title, all the way back at UFC 253 in 2020. Paulo went from being one of the most devalued athletes to one of the most valued athletes in the UFC. I have no doubt that Paulo is the highest paid Brazilian athlete in the organization today. I don't know if you know any Brazilian athlete that is paid more than $1 million per fight. I don't, especially in non-title fights. Given that Costa stated previously that his old contract saw him earn $70,000 to show and $70,000 to win, do you believe he's making $1 million per fight on his new contract? Sound off below. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Joe Rogan criticized for latest claim regarding strikes to the back of the head. On the heels of claiming that modern-day welterweights like Jorge Masvidal are on another level in comparison to fighters that George St. Pierre faced, longtime commentator Joe Rogan has once again found himself in hot water after questioning whether strikes to the back of the head should be legal in MMA. While discussing strikes to grounded opponents, Rogan stated,
"We shield the wrestler from that potential situation of getting kneed in the face. And it would
doesn't make sense either. I don't even know if we should stop hitting people in the back of the head. It doesn't make any sense to me because there's a lot of knockouts, like high kicks, they wrap around the back of the shoulder and they go right to the back of your head and it's illegal and the guy gets KO'd.
As Rogan went on to point out, oftentimes when two fighters are involved in a wild exchange, strikes land illegally behind the head. He also went on to explain that when a fighter has an opponent's back, landing exclusively to the side of the head is somewhat unrealistic. The claim quickly drew widespread criticism, as many have pointed out the clear dangers associated with brainstem injuries. Given the reaction, it doesn't sound as though Rogan's latest claim will gain traction. UFC booking roundup. On the heels of several high-profile fights being reported this week, the momentum continued with 3 more fights added to upcoming cards. First up on the calendar, we have a new addition to the UFC Vegas 72 card on April 29th, as Haley Cowan welcomes undefeated LFA champion Jamie Lynn Horth. The fight will see Cowan look to finally make her UFC debut after securing a contract with the win on Dana White's Contender Series back in August. Since then, she's had her UFC debut fall through twice. On the flip side, Horth will be looking to make her UFC debut after rattling off 5 straight wins to start her professional career. Next up, we have a fight on the June 3rd card between David Onama and Hussein Ashkabov, where Onama will look to bounce back from a majority decision loss to Nate Landwehr late last summer that dropped his UFC record to 2-2. On the flip side, Ashkabov will be looking to bounce back from the first loss of his professional career after dropping to 23-1 in his UFC debut. Last but certainly not least, we have a flyweight showdown added to a June 17th card expected to take place in Las Vegas. The fight will see Alessandro Costa square off with Jimmy Flick. Costa was recently TKO'd in his UFC debut back in late 2022, bringing an end to a 7-fight win streak. On the flip side, Flick will be looking to return to the win column after dropping a TKO to Charles Johnson back in January. Drop your predictions for these fights in the comments down below. And now for our breaking news story of the day. We have Paddy Pimblett calling out Jared Gordon from his hospital bed after his ankle surgery. Paddy released a video calling out Jared.
When I saw them happen in the first round of a fight, within the first minute, and he said, "Oh, did your fight finish there?" And I was like, "No, I've done another 2.5 rounds." They were like, "What?" He said, "You should have just sat on your stool and never carried on fighting." I thought, "You mad? You think I'm some pussy?" He was like, "Oh, Jared Gordon did so well. He only done well because my ankle was stupid shit. He's just being a bitter little girl, going at every interview site. Oh, I won that fight, I won that fight." Well, lad, Joe Selecki beat you, but you got a split decision, so shut your mouth.
Paddy was then asked about a rematch with Jared, which he responded with,
"Yeah, I'm going to punch his head in towards the end of the year. I am going to run it back. I hope he beats Bobby Green, because I'll snap his arm for him in a round, had a boxing match with him, and I still won, because you're shit. I hope he watches this. You're f***ing dog shit. At my worst, you couldn't beat me. At your best, injured, everything going wrong, you couldn't beat me on my worst day, and I beat you on your best, because you're a little bum."
What do you guys think about this rematch? Who do you got winning that fight? Cody Garbrandt drops big news on next fight. According to former UFC bantamweight champion Cody Garbrandt, he's been offered a rematch with Dominick Cruz in July, creating quite the interesting matchup in the bantamweight division. The first time the two squared off, back in 2016, saw Garbrandt put on an absolute masterclass, as he showcased outstanding head movement, boxing, and takedown defense. To date, the highlights from the fight stand alone as some of the greatest in UFC history, with No Love famously doing the robot mid-fight en route to a unanimous decision win and UFC gold. Now, with Garbrandt just 2-3 in his last 5, the former champion could be on a collision course with his former rival after returning to bantamweight with a decision win over Trevin Jones. On the flip side, Cruz also sits at 2-3 in his last 5 fights, with a recent highlight reel loss to Marlon Chito Vera, dropping him to the number 7 spot in the bantamweight rankings.
It was a great night for me to fight such a masterclass performance against one of the greatest bantamweights to ever do it. And yeah, it's great. He's still out here plugging along and doing his thing. It's funny, Ali hit me up the other day and was like, "Hey, would you like to do a Dominick Cruz rematch in July?"
Given that both men seem to be in the twilight years of their respective careers, do you think the time for a rematch is now? Drop your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay up to date with MMA news every day. Here are the top comments from yesterday's video. "I think Rogan's sniffing glue if he thinks Jorge's that good. GSP would do whatever he wants with Masvidal. Colby got everybody crying. gives me chills as I laugh. Bilal is a Karen. I'm getting tired of searching Leon eye poking his soul after every mention of B Karen lol. And those were the top comments from yesterday's video. If you want to be featured on our next video, make sure to leave a comment and don't forget to check out yesterday's video in case you missed it. Thank you so much for joining us today. What do you make of what's going on in the fight world? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date on all of the latest news from the MMA Zone. See you next time.